Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Vendetta Sports Media's NBA previews. I'm Jerry Walker. Alongside me again is Jake Reno. Jake, we have the Philadelphia 76ers on our forecast for today, and we'll hop into all the drama, but it's been a weird last couple of weeks for them, especially since preseason training camp started. But how'd they do last year? Because last year, you were saying beforehand, it's been a long, long time since they've had playoff success.
Right. So last year, another very good regular season. Finished third in the conference. Uh, they play well in the regular season. They have for years now. They've got an MVP winner on their team in Joel Embiid. And we've been hearing to trust the process for a long time with him and what they've been brewing over in Philadelphia after just brutal seasons. Consistently finishing in the bottom three in the league, getting top picks and hoping that they'll develop over time, which they have to an extent. But another second round exit for them last year in the playoffs, something that they've been really good at. They haven't even made it past the second round since 2001, when they lost to the Lakers in the NBA Finals. So it's been a long time for them since they've seen any real success. Um, they've had some flashes of greatness, and they've had times where it was just dog days for them. So this year, it's a really important season. They've got a ton of drama around their front office and their players. It seems like people are getting just these huge disconnections with each other, and it's becoming in bad scenes in Philadelphia right now.
Absolutely. And I mean, going just off the playoffs last year, it seemed like a tale of two series. Come out, play Brooklyn in the first round. I think they actually were the only team to sweep their first round series and did it in dominant fashion. Seemed like
Hmm.
they had Brooklyn's number from the get go. Not overly surprising. Brooklyn was kind of a surprise team to even make it there at the end of the season. But then against Boston, split the first two, not too bad. Or yeah, split the first two and split them back in Philadelphia. Get a win in Boston. Then you're up 3-2. We're thinking maybe this is the year they finally have the Celtics number. Then it seems like everything just disappeared. James Harden vanished off the face of the earth in the playoffs,
Hmm.
especially in the fourth quarters. Joel Embiid went from averaging around 30s for the first half of the series to 26 in game six and only 15 in game seven. So it seems like a complete mess up there, and they just fell apart and haven't seemed to be able to recover this offseason, which we'll get into shortly. But did that surprise you how much they kind of just fell off in the playoffs last year?
Not necessarily. I mean, yeah, that was probably, like you said, the most promising series for them we've seen in a while. I mean, you're up 3-2 against a team that uh, at the end of that series has now eliminated you three times in the past 6 years, right? So a team that 100% has your number. This team you just can't seem to figure them out. And those young guys on the Celtics team that have developed with that team, they're only getting better, right?
Yep.
So for that team to have eliminated you so many times, you get so close, right? And then it's just right back to their old ways, and the Celtics move on once again. Another conference finals visit for them, and the Sixers are left speechless.
Yeah, it's been very, very weird. And it's like obviously as soon as they get eliminated, they make some coaching changes, fire Doc Rivers, and bring
Hmm.
in Nick Nurse, which that seems like it could be a good fit, but at the same time, it's like they had Doc Rivers, who we've seen have success in the past, at least getting to the playoffs, not necessarily winning much outside of his time in Boston. But I expected more. I rate Doc Rivers as a coach for the most part. Nick Nurse had his moments in Toronto, but I don't know how I feel about this hire. What are your thoughts on the whole Nick Nurse situation?
Yeah, I don't think that this is like huge news. I mean, Nick Nurse won a championship with that Raptors team in 2019 2020 season. I think he's a good coach, but I don't think he's the answer, and he's this guy you're going to bring in and just change everything, and the Sixers are going to make it to the finals. I mean, they have much bigger issues than that. Um, you know, like you said, James Harden kind of just fell off the face of the earth. We don't even know if he's even going to be on this roster for much longer. I mean, we're rapidly approaching opening night tomorrow, so but we don't know what's going to happen with him. Daryl Morey and that situation is starting to create a divide between players in the front office, it seems like. And Nick Nurse was launched into a drama-filled situation, and that is not where you want to be as a brand new head coach for a new team. That's a tough spot to be in, and he's got to figure out how to keep these guys connected and focused to try and have another good season and actually make it past the second round this year. But a lot of people are speculating James Harden will not finish the season with the 76ers. So you're going to have to bring in new guys and try to fit them in with this squad and see what happens. But tough situation for Nick Nurse, though, not the position you want to be in.
Yeah, it's not ideal by any means. And I mean, there's the thing that obviously going around that James Harden's just choosing not to be there. He doesn't necessarily what seems like he wants to be any part of this Philadelphia 76ers organization. Saw the comments earlier this month, I want to say it was, of the relationship between him and the owner, Mooney, is broken beyond repair. And he doesn't want to play for him. At the same time, Daryl Morey's kind of not really doing much about it from his president spot in the Sixers organization. It seems like he's just like, okay, just sit. We won't do anything. I still believe that something will happen before, maybe not before the season starts, but before the first few months are over, that James Harden likely won't be a 76er. And I don't know if they even really, if I was a Sixers fan, I don't even know if I would want him on my team anymore. It just seems like he has no desire to play in Philadelphia. So why not just cut off the loose weight or the dead weight and get moving on with it? It's such a weird situation that this team constantly, whether it was Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, constant injuries and outage at times, now the James Harden situation, something's up in Philadelphia, and I really can't put a finger on it because it must be front office. They keep changing coaches as often, bringing in different players, other players. It's just not working out. And it's a little upsetting because now they have the MVP, whether or not he should have won it. I'm going to keep my bias out of that. But he's well deserving of winning an MVP at one point in his past 3 seasons because Embiid is arguably the second best center in the league. That you have him. You should build a team around him. And that's the whole thing you mentioned, trust the process. They've been trying to build around him, but nothing's happened. Maybe Embiid is the issue. Maybe it's time to move on from him. There's all these what ifs and who knows kind of things because we're not in the locker room. We're not in the front office hearing everything that's happening. So this team should be doing better in the playoffs than they are. And until they do have any success and get past that second round, I think something really does need to change.
Yeah. And I wish we could have been in these practice facilities and these locker rooms because this team is just, like you said, I can't put a finger on it either. But I mean, I think we can put heavy blame on James Harden. If he does end up getting traded here in the near future, it'll be his 4th team in 4 seasons. And when you look at a guy like that and you see his off the court decisions, right? I saw an NBA GM in a anonymous survey described it as legendarily bad. Okay, his decisions off the court are remarkably bad, right? I mean, it is just insane when you load up Twitter or Instagram and you see him in another club in another city at some random release party for music and they have a game the next day, or 3 practices in a row that he's missed. His teammates are wondering where he is. He just opted into over $35 million option, and this guy is in another state, right? And it's just that this is part of the problem for this team is one of the highest paid players on the entire roster is nowhere to be found. He randomly will give you 30 and 10, and then he'll quit on you the next week, right? This guy is just amazing at getting his way and not being where he doesn't want to be. If he doesn't want to be somewhere, he won't be there. And Daryl Morey tried to get into a I don't care battle with James Harden. We'll phrase it like that. And you're going to lose that against James Harden 100% of the time. Yeah. He will out I don't care you, if that makes sense. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's opted into what, a $35.6 million contract, requested a trade immediately after, nothing's
Yep.
happened, talks with the Clippers. He doesn't care. He's getting
No.
paid either way. He will sit there and do what he's been doing. And if you do something about it and move him on, great. If not, that's just money in his pocket, no toll on his body, no stress, just living his life.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, they've mentioned. I saw that they mentioned some huge fines for him if he misses some games coming up here. We're talking like six figures type of fines, and then that will hit after you get a few of those. Those will start to hurt, but he's got so many different endorsement deals. He's a huge favorite in China whenever he goes over there. So this guy does have tons of money. He obviously doesn't care that much, but I think another problem for the Sixers is they're going to have a difficult time getting rid of him and getting some good value in return, because this is a guy in his mid 30s who is filled with drama, obviously isn't a great locker room presence, tough on the ownership, and this guy's going to be expecting another max or close to super max type of deal after this contract, and it's insanity, right?
Yeah.
To put this guy under contract till he's 37, 38 years old and pay him $35+ million a year when he doesn't even show up to play in the preseason
Yeah.
or in practice. So they're in a bad situation with cap as well, because they'll have a hard time finding someone that'll want to take this massive risk.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really many contenders that'll be like, we could use James Harden, but we don't necessarily have the money to go out and pay James Harden for.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I think back to his Rockets days, even his Thunder days. He was great, so much fun to cut, multi-time MVP, just an absolute hell of a player. Now it's all like the personal stuff and off-court issues. It's going to be interesting to see. Brings me to another point though, like because this was all kind of issues that were happening in the middle of the summer, middle of the off season, and nothing was really done. They only made really two acquisitions of players that are going to see minutes. Mo Bamba potentially might, so he's one of them. And then Patrick Beverly, who, as it stands, will likely be the starting point guard for the Sixers as long as Harden's not there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, nothing crazy. Patrick Beverly, 35 years old. He's going to be finishing up playing basketball here pretty soon. He's one of those guys that you either really love him or you really hate him, and he's a top 5 trash talker. He's scrappy on defense. He's one of those guys that you want on your team because he's totally committed, right? Very opposite of James Harden. And he can be a leader, a veteran presence, but I don't think he's a game changer whatsoever in this situation, looking at the past seasons for them. And, Mo Bamba, I mean, there's really not too much to say around him, still young, 7-footer. I mean, he could help out a little bit, but I mean, this team isn't poorly built, if James Harden was to actually play. Tobias Harris has had some great seasons. Tyrese Maxey, young guy that they're really trying to, build up. They just acquired Kelly Oubre as well, who's a guy who could consistently give you 15 a night. So it's a well-built team. We've seen that from their regular season success, but there's just a gap for them when it comes to regular season, the playoffs, and they can't figure it out.
Yeah, and I mean, you brought up Tyrese Maxey. He's a player that's just been he's going into his 4th year, and he's just been taking everything in stride. 8 points his first year, 17 and change last year, or 2 years ago. Averaged over 20 points this past season, and I could see him as one of the guys that takes a huge step forward. It might even be an X factor for me is Maxey, because if there is no Harden, who's going to be running the guard? Like you said, Patrick Beverly is 37. He's near the end of his career. Embiid can only do so much from the post spot. Might be a Tyrese Maxey team to kind of run it. Shot almost 44% from 3 last year, so he's hitting his long shots. 48 from the field, just overall. It's him, Tobias Harris, but even then Tobias Harris is aging a bit. I do really like Maxey, though. I feel like this could be his team shortly, and his team to kind of run the point guard. I would even suggest go with him as the point guard over Beverly. Maybe throw Beverly at the starting 2, but that's the issue. They don't have that much depth either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, See, I agree too. Like, this may very well be Maxi's team very soon, and whether or not he's ready for that, or whatever the case is, he might not have a choice, because with Harden certainly departing and not going to be around or whatever, right? We've already talked about it, but um, Maxi's going to need to step up again, and you know they may have gotten another diamond in the rough. I mean, Maxi and Embiid, if these two can average over 20 a night and really be the leaders on this squad, and get some of these other guys in the mix, Tobias Harris, Kelly Oubre, some guys that can score the ball pretty well. Um, we could see another pretty successful regular season. I mean, he might be my X factor as well. Him or Embiid. I mean, I think one thing that Embiid's going to really need to do this year in the playoffs is really show up every night, because that's been he's been a bit of a question mark in the playoffs. Some nights he goes insane, and other nights it's like he wasn't even there. So they've got some playoff struggles, but yeah, like you said, Maxi's going to be a huge part of this team, because they're going to need it.
Yeah. Other guy who I just want to briefly touch on, at least for me, is PJ Tucker. I don't know what his real help is there at this point. I only averaged 3.5 points, 3.9 rebounds. He's 38 years old. Mm-hmm. Is he there for veteran leadership? If so, put him on the bench potentially.
Yeah.
He's been around the block for long enough. Drafted in 2006.
Yeah, a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, I really don't see the purpose in him, because he's not necessarily going to be one to help you win games. And at the end of the day, it's kind of just taking up dead space that they just haven't really. I guess that's the issue with the Harden. Brings back to that. Everything on this organization somehow loops back around to James Harden.
Yeah.
Because he's there. He's taking so much money. Embiid has a ridiculous contract. They can't go out and get some of these other guys, because I'm sure they're still paying something to Ben Simmons one way or another.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny. I think Harden likes that all this drama is around him, and that these problems are caused by him. It certainly makes him happy. But yeah, I don't understand PJ Tucker's presence either. He's set to make $11 million this year, which is actually significant in comparison to some of these other guys. Kelly Oubre is only making $2 million compared to him. Mm-hmm. And he's much younger, and you can definitely get your veteran help from Patrick Beverley. Danny Green is on this squad, 36 years old. He's making $2 million. So if PJ Tucker is just there for veteran presence, and you're paying him, 5 to 10 million more than some of these other veteran guys on the roster, he has no place being there. 100%. I don't really understand his spot either. So that's about it.
Yeah. So going into our kind of the last question for you, 54-28 last season. Do you see an improvement at all this year? How do you think the Sixers are going to do for this upcoming season?
I think we'll see a slight decline. I think that, Nick Nurse is not a new guy, but it's his first year with the Sixers. And this drama with the front office, trying to find a place to dump off James Harden, all this social media drama and whatnot, I think it'll affect them a little bit. I think they'll still make the postseason. I think that they'll be a 6 seed or higher. I don't think they'll be in the play-in, but I think that they'll be under 54 wins this year, just because of this drama and just because of all these problems that James Harden loves to create for them. But I do still think that they'll be pretty competitive. They still have a roster built for that. And if they can get some value for James Harden, it'll definitely help them for their playoff push.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I do think, kind of with you, I think they'll take a step back. The East at times, some of these teams have gotten much, much better. Mm-hmm. Some, probably the majority haven't, but they finished the 3 seed. They were ahead of Cleveland. The Knicks, I think, will take a step forward this year. Miami was a 7 seed. I think Miami's going to be a bit better this year as well. I could realistically see them dropping like 4 or 5 games and finishing around that 49, 50 win mark, solely on the back of Embiid is that good and he can carry them that well. Maxi, like I said, will step up, but I do think it'll be another, maybe you get to the second round and then are bounced out again. It's the circle of Philadelphia.
Yeah, totally agree. I could see that's like, I said slight decline. I was thinking like 51, 50 wins, somewhere in that range. I don't think it'll be a total decline to the point where they don't even make the play in. But they still have really competitive guys. But without James Harden playing the way that we know James Harden has in the past, I don't see them getting better.
Yeah, I don't either. But Jake, anything else on the 76ers? I feel like we've covered most of the drama, most of what's happening, but any final thoughts?
I just think that this team's got to figure it out in the front office. Maybe fix some problems with Daryl Morey, and they really, really, really got to get rid of James Harden. I know Sixers fans don't want him there. Get as much value as you can for him and drop him off somewhere else, because he is a problem that this team does not need.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. But thank you guys, the viewers, for watching. Jake, a pleasure as always. Make sure you go and check out the rest of our Vendetta Sports Media NBA previews at the Vendetta Sports Media YouTube channel. All 30 teams will be out by the tip-off of tomorrow, if not the tip-off of everyone's games on Wednesday. So make sure you check all those out. Thank you guys again, and we'll see you next episode.